You are watching Caribbean Vibrations coming to you from our studio as we're practicing some social distancing because, everything are going. But I got to say, I'm very happy to say that I have award-winning film director Kelly Fife Marshall with us. Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I mean, it's my pleasure. I mean, it's for us, it's kind of a full circle or even 180
Mhm,
because we met you so many years ago and you were out in the
mhm.
festivals hustling your stuff. And we're like, yes, oh, we like what this girl's doing. Fast forward 5 years later, and now you're doing so much. So for us, it's always great when you see people in our community who are like, yo, I'm doing this and this and this, and then you see them doing it, because
Yeah.
it's not an easy community that we're working in the film and television industry, especially for people of color, especially for women. So
Mhm.
I've had the pleasure of watching a couple of your short films. And one of the ones that has really touched me, and I think that is something that we as a community need to speak about, is unfortunately with child abuse. So tell me
Mhm.
a bit about the inspiration and why you made the film Haven.
Yeah. So Haven, it was an interesting film the way it came about, but essentially I was at a point in my career where I wanted to continuously make short films. And so I had a conversation with my DP, Jordan Oram, who's gone on to do amazing things. And we were just sitting there and we're like, let's make a powerful short with two people in one room. And so I decided, okay, I want them to be black women and I want it to be something that we don't see often. And I said, a black girl getting her hair done. Like us in the community, we see that all the time every Sunday, but we don't see that on TV often. And so I was like, okay. And in that moment, when that little girl feels very safe, that's her safe haven, what would she talk to her mother about? And what would be something that could heal my community and propel my community forward? And so I thought of children's sexual assault. And at the time when I wrote the film, I didn't know anybody that had gone through that. I didn't know, I hadn't like had any conversations. No one in my immediate circle in my family had gone through that. And so I really was just writing it for the community. And I sent it out to my producer, Tamar Bird, and I was like, listen, what do you think? And she was like, don't change it. Let's find the money and let's film it. And we were able to film it for like $100. We got a lot of donations and stuff. And we literally, she just paid for food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the film has just gone so far.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And I love that because, as you said, unfortunately, in our community, and you and I were talking a bit before the interview that how it happens, but we
Hmm.
don't look at it as a black problem. We look at it as
Hmm.
someone else's problem. And I think that a lot of people will be able to come forward and get some strength because it's something that needs to be discussed. We've been discussing a lot about mental health, but this is something that's very traumatic that from a mental health perspective that people need to discuss and talk about. Now, speaking of trauma, and I don't want to just lead into it that way, as I said, we knew you before, but a lot of people got introduced to you when that incident in California with Airbnb happened. So I would like to you tell me a bit about that and then lead into the film marathon.
Yeah, definitely. So I was in California with some friends. Denisha Prendergast called me Olaf, and Denisha's assistant is Ashley. And we were leaving. We went to the Kaya Fest, which is an educational festival, a music festival done by the Marleys, and we were leaving. And it was our last day, so we'd been there for 4 days, checking out of our rental property. And an elderly white lady saw us, and she called the police because we didn't look like we belonged in this neighborhood. And the result of her calling the police for breaking and entering, we were surrounded by 7 police cars and a helicopter, and we were detained to ask us what we were doing there. And it was a very traumatic experience that took time to really set in because everything happened so quickly. Like I filmed it, I put it on my social media, and it went viral. Within like I think by the end of the week, I was back in New York, and it was like 10 million views. And so it was like very crazy and everything kind of we did like a media tour was on every single channel and it blew up. And so once everything was done and you go home, now you have to face your demons and you have to really think about like what are your feelings here and how do you get through them. And so that's what I did. I realized when I got home that even when taking my suitcase out of my car from the airport, I felt like I was being watched, which was the exact same thing I was doing before.
Mhm.
Whenever I felt the cops come by, I felt like very like I had a visceral reaction. And so I'm not the regular one that black folks feel, but like a real like, okay, I've been through this. And I know so many of our brothers and sisters have died in this exact circumstance. And so I thought, how could I put my emotional alchemy, like how could I put my emotions into something that would help heal me, but also be something for the community, but even beyond that for allies. And so that's what I did. I wrote down all my emotions and I put it into a film. and then I made a 2-part film, Marathon and Black Bodies. And it's inspired by the incident, but not a replay of the incident. But it was for me to speak for my community, so we can send this to other people that don't understand what happened, and they can see us and be like, wow, this is what the Black community in the world has to go through daily.
There's a vibe. That draws me to the Black sometimes. It makes me sit upright.
I love it. So Marathon has already been out. It's on your platforms. And Black Bodies now, the second part, is getting a lot of praise. I mean, you see you on the different interviews. I mean, Ava DuVernay has said something to you. It's won at South by Southwest. How does that make you feel? Because these are the type of films you're making. And like I said, I referenced back to your TED Talk, and you talked about, making a ripple where you are. But you are doing that. So how is all this praise making you feel because you're doing these type of films?
I think, so often we're taught that if we do things with purpose, that it won't get the same praise. And so I'm happy to be the beacon to say, like, I'm making films that are purposeful, that are impactful, and they're still getting the same praise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing what my purpose is, and I'm still moving through and getting the same praise. So I'm happy for that. I mean, it's bittersweet that it's happening during COVID, and I don't get to go out there and be around the community and speak with people. Like, after screenings, I like to talk with the people that have seen the film. Even going back to Haven, like, once I did the screening, so many people came to me and told me their stories. And then I found out that people in my circle did go through that situation. And so it's something similar that I'd wish that I could do with Black Bodies and Marathon, but a lot like sending out, we released Marathon on Ahmaud Arbery's birthday, months after he was gunned down while running. We thought it was super important because that's why we make film, is to touch the community. And people were messaging me saying, I sent this to my office because I needed them to know what I'd gone through. I sent this to family members. I sent this to like friends because they needed to know what Black Lives Matter really meant and what it stood for. And so that's something that I hold really sacred because I know that that's my purpose, to speak for my community.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're doing actually a really good job of speaking for us. So, I mean, you've been mastering the short film genre. Do you want to do features at some point? And what is pretty much the future for you right now? Because, I mean, you have a lot of options, but what's next?
Yeah, so I'm actually in pre-production for my feature, my first debut feature. It's called When Morning Comes, and it is a coming of age story of the little boy Jamal who lives in Jamaica and is sent to live in Canada. And so it's my love letter to Jamaica, and it's his goodbye letter to Jamaica. And just really focusing on the stories outside of the resort, outside of what everyone thinks of when they think of Jamaica, and just getting to see this beautiful country, and the beautiful people that reside there.
I love it. Well, we're going to be watching. I know Tony's going to call you so we come on set, do some behind the scenes. We'll follow up COVID protocols, but I mean, it's especially important for us. And I tell this all the time. There's a lot of stories from the Caribbean that are just stories. Same themes as when you'll see in a major motion picture, and we have to support those. So please, we're going to stay in touch. We love what you're doing, and I really want to thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Keep
watching out for Kelly Fife Marshall. Check her online. You'll have a link for her website, and you're watching Caribbean Vibrations. Caribbean Vibration.